Hi there, my name is Russell Layton and I'm a licensed real estate agent in Northern California. In addition to real estate, I have also been a private utility consultant for the last 5 years or so. So today I want to talk about easements. A lot of people have heard of easements, but they may not fully understand what an easement actually is or how it affects somebody's property. So an easement in its simplest definition is really just a right of somebody else to use another's property. So for example, if you own a residential property, there might be a utility easement on that property so that the utility company can deliver electricity or natural gas to your property. There also might be a pedestrian access easement, such as a sidewalk that cuts through the front of your property, or perhaps the back of your property if you back up to like a green space with a walking trail on it. Another type of easement could be a private driveway easement. This might be an appurtenant easement, and it would be reserved in one of your neighbor's deeds, and it would allow them to cross through your property to be able to access the public road. So those are some of your most typical types of easements, and a lot of people wonder, well, what is an easement going to restrict me from doing with my property, and how might it affect the value of my property? So it really depends on the scope, the typical use, and the restrictions that that easement imposes on your property. So first, if we look at the scope of the easement, you have to determine what is that easement granting the right for somebody else to do. So in the case of, say, an overhead electric easement, the utility company might have a 20-foot wide overhead electric easement that cuts through the back of your property, and you might see, overhead poles, lines, cables, and other types of equipment mounted on those poles in the back of your property. So more than likely, the electric company is going to have the right to access that equipment for inspection purposes, maintenance, replacement, installation of new facilities, as well as the right to keep you out of building under those electric lines. So there might be a building restriction clause in there, or a vegetation management clause that allows them to come in and trim any trees that are getting too close to those lines to keep them operating the way that they're designed to do that safely. And so, first of all, what you want to do is look at your preliminary title report and determine if there are any easements on those property, or on the property you're looking at maybe purchasing, and then determine what type of use that easement is going to typically have. So again, in an overhead electric easement, there might be vegetation management and inspection going on. In an underground easement, there's probably going to be less activity because those lines, whether they're pipelines or underground electric lines or cables, are buried under the ground. And so unless they're disturbed or have an issue, they're probably not going to have as much maintenance involved. So that's one of the advantages of having underground electric and underground gas lines, is that they are less susceptible to disturbance because they're underground and they're in theory very protected. Dig-ins are pretty rare, and that's why the utility companies are always educating the public to call 811 and make sure that they have any underground utilities marked out. So 811 is just the hotline that you can call anytime you're going to dig, and somebody will come out, a utility locator, and actually put flags in the ground or spray paint to let you know where any underground utilities are, such as if you're building a fence, putting in a pool, doing anything like that. So yeah, you want to determine what the scope of the easement is, what the typical use case would be, how often is somebody using this, maybe accessing my property for their driveway to the neighbor's lot in the back, or for the overhead electric line to maintain it. And then you also want to know what the size of the easement is. So how large is it? How wide is it? And again, going back to maybe a building restriction, if you have an underground pipeline easement in your backyard, or a water line easement, you'd want to know where that was, because say you want to put in a pool down the road. If you have an easement that cuts right through the middle of your backyard for an underground pipeline, you probably are not going to be able to put that pool where you would like to, depending on how large your backyard is. So it's important to know what easements you have on a property, and how large those easements are, and where those easements are, so that you can determine how much of an impact that will have on your lifestyle and on the value of what you are willing to pay for that property. So if you have any questions regarding easements, drop me a comment below and I'll try to answer your questions. And thanks for watching this video.